Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Morgan Young. Gun sales have hit a record high across the nation. That is according to a new survey. There's also a pattern of who and what is triggering this new trend. 500 Side's Robert Townsend looked into this. Here's what he found.
I had been thinking about it, and yes, I was nervous.
Despite her jitters, in April, Jamie Smotherson decided to do two things she'd never done before. The St. Louis County mom, who has 7 and 13-year-old sons, completed a firearms training class, and she bought a gun.
I did it for safety reasons, to protect my home, my children. Just seems like the crime in St. Louis is getting out of control.
The 38-year-old single mom has plenty of pistol packing company. A new survey by the National Shooting Sports Foundation reveals retailers reported a record 10 million firearm sales during the first 6 months of this year. Overall gun sales increased by 95% compared to last year, and ammunition sales rose 139%. Researchers say many first-time gun buyers, women, and more African Americans are shelling out big bucks for firearms and firearm training. Armand Reed Wynn and his wife offer gun firing classes at the Range West St. Louis in Baldwin.
All of our classes sell out at least a month and a half in advance.
There's a number of reasons.
At Mid-America Arms in South St. Louis County, owner Mark Campbell says his gun sales have more than doubled compared to a year ago. Campbell thinks the coronavirus pandemic, recent protests, the city's ever-rising homicide rate all impacted the surge in gun sales.
And a lot of it with the unrest, calling for defunding police, people are scared.
They're wanting to protect their homes, their families.
Robert Townsend, 5 on your side.
Now to an update on an officer-involved shooting in St. Charles County. Police have identified the man who was killed as Anthony Baduk. Police say they responded to a burglary at a home on Highway H yesterday. Baduk confronted the homeowner, fired shots, then drove off. A police chase ended in this field. Baduk and a female passenger got out of the car. That's when police say he fired at officers who returned fire and hit him. He later died at a hospital. A man was shot and killed this evening in the Walnut Park West neighborhood. This was just before 5 on Lucille Avenue. Police say the victim is about 30 years old but has not released any other details. We'll of course let you know when we learn more. Police are investigating another homicide in Wellston where a man was shot in the head. Police have not released a lot of details or whether they're looking for a suspect. We are trying to get more information, and again, we'll let you know more when we get more. And the major case squad is investigating a triple shooting that left a man dead. It happened in Pine Lawn last night. The man who died has been identified as Jermario Morris. Another woman who was shot is in critical condition, and another person who was hurt is going to be okay. If you have any information, you can call Crime Stoppers. It is an anonymous tip line. That number is 866-371-TIPS. Well, as communities around the country work to reform and in some cases dismantle law enforcement departments, Missouri lawmakers are cracking down on crime. The state Senate passed a bill Friday that has some very specific implications for St. Louis. And while it passed, not everyone is on board.
It's called Senate Bill 1, and it's got a lot packed into it. But here's what you should know. For starters, and this is arguably the most controversial part, it would give judges the option to hold a hearing to determine whether a child between 14 and 18 could be charged as an adult for a felony weapons crime. Our political analyst Anita Mannion says this is somewhat of a compromise because the original age proposed was 12. The other stipulation is that courts would have to keep data on each of these cases that would be reviewed each year by officials so they can track trends in things like age and race. The bill cracks down on the punishment for adults who encourage children to commit crimes with weapons and adults who give or sell guns to kids. It would also create the Pretrial Witness Protection Service Fund that law enforcement agencies could apply for to help protect witnesses and potential witnesses in their investigations. Lastly, and this is all about the city of St. Louis, it would lift the current residency requirement for police officers and public safety employees in the city. So that means starting at the end of August, officers and staff members could be hired if they live within an hour of city limits. The bill passed the Senate 27-3 and is expected to be decided on by the House next week.
Now, it is important to note that the 3 senators who voted no on this bill are all black, and all 3 represent the St. Louis area. Mannion says their issues are this: the city is set to vote on residency requirements for police in November, and those senators do not believe that state lawmakers should make this very local decision. Also, there are concerns about charging children as adults. Many fear that this will disproportionately impact black communities. Switching gears now, we are in storm alert tonight. Tracy Henson is joining us now from home. And Tracy, flash flooding is going to be a concern with these storms tonight.
Yes, exactly. We are going to see some storms that are going to pack a lot of rainfall in a short period of time. That tends to overwhelm some of our creeks, streams, and local infrastructure. So we could see a little bit of flash flooding. Even now, as we're looking out here, we do have a few pockets of moderate to heavy rainfall. Not too much in the way of lightning strikes, and most of this right now coming down through Troy, O'Fallon, a little bit into Alton and Litchfield. As far as lightning goes, it's fairly minimal, and it is tapering off just a touch, which I do expect it to do that overnight. As we get into the overnight hours, we tend to stabilize, which is why we lose a lot of that lightning. As we get through the rest of the night here, these storms will actually pick up, turn a bit more widespread, especially after midnight and into the early morning hours. Then it lets up right at around 6 a.m. and we'll just have a few trace showers to be tracking by about 9 and 11. Overnight tonight, don't expect much of a cool down. Our temperatures are turning down into the low 70s, but just wait until we head into the rest of the week. I have 90s in the 7-day forecast.
All right, Tracy, thank you. Well, here is a live look at Busch Stadium tonight. Another quiet night on the baseball diamond. The Cards postponed their series against the Cubs after more players tested positive for COVID-19. Coming up later in sports, Ahmad Hicks breaks down some big changes for the team and what could happen with their Monday game against Pittsburgh. Let's take a look now at some of our COVID-19 case numbers. We're going to look at these cases that show new cases in Illinois. For the second day in a row, the state has seen more than 2,000 new cases. The state is also doing more testing. Yesterday and today were some of the highest testing days since the pandemic started. Well, President Trump signed 4 executive orders today to help with COVID relief. That's after lawmakers failed to reach a deal on a new stimulus bill. His orders call for $400 a week unemployment payments instead of the original $600 a week. They also defer student loan payment and interest through the end of the year, and they halt evictions. The president also wants to give a payroll tax holiday to households making less than $100,000 a year.
Democrats are obstructing all of it. Therefore, I'm taking executive action. We've had it. And we're going to save American jobs and provide relief to the American workers, and I'll be signing these bills in a very short period of time.
While the president blamed Democrats during his announcement today, neither side could agree on how much to spend on a new bill.
Coming up, President Trump says he's banning TikTok in the U.S., but the social media app could strike back to stay up and running. Plus, how the pandemic is changing our food buying habits.